Mother Knows Death, starring Nicole and Jemmy and Maria QK.
Hi everyone, welcome to Mother Knows Death. Let's get started with the story of the week. So this story is something that I've been waiting for forever. Louisiana lawmakers have approved a bill that will allow surgical castration for pedophiles. I love this so much. It makes me so happy. Yeah, so Louisiana had already allowed chemical castration, which do you want to explain what that is? Yeah, it's when you give hormones to or medications to a man to essentially stop him from producing testosterone. So that it's less invasive, obviously, because once you stop giving them the drugs, then they could start producing the hormone again. So it's like a semi-permanent solution. Yeah, so Louisiana lawmakers have put this bill forward. It still does need to be approved by the governor, but I don't see why it wouldn't. I just think this is a really good idea. But basically how it works is those who are convicted of sex crimes with victims under 13 years old can be surgically castrated now. So the bill will give judges the option to assess the penalty against people convicted of the crimes. I guess they will see how severe the crimes are and then kind of determine from there if they're going to go forward with it or not. Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure. I would really like to speak with an expert about this because I'm not sure if there's been studies done that show that people that tend to be pedophiles, that if they do get castrated, if they no longer have those tendencies. And you would seem to think that that's totally possible because most sex offenders against children are men. So you would think that testosterone has something to do with it. Although I feel like lately in the news, I've been hearing a lot of women doing this to children now in school, which is just kind of weird. Unless it's always happened and we just never talked about it. Yeah, I feel like we've known that women can be predators, especially in more high-profile cases like Mary Kay Letourneau, who was the teacher that got impregnated by her young teen student, right? But yeah. But that was unheard of when that happened. No, and there definitely, of course, have been cases of it that we just have not been privy to as a society. But I do feel the same way as you that I've been seeing more and more female pedophile stories popping up lately. So regardless, I want to know, because it has to be both sexually driven as well as just you fucked up in the brain driven, you know, whatever causes that to happen. So at least they might not have the sex drive anymore to act on it. So I'm like totally for this. And a surgical castration is cutting off the testicles, removing the hormone. Yeah, so any surgery will be conducted inside the prisons by a doctor supplied by the Department of Public Safety and Corrections, and the court will have to find the defendant suitable for castration at least 60 days prior to the treatment. So it's very interesting. This is kind of like the first of its kind because this is the thing. The only reason that I kind of go on the other side is because it's a slippery slope when you start telling the government that they're allowed to do surgery on you against your will. Because people, you've heard people say that about, like, let's say women that get pregnant with like 10 kids and can't afford them and stuff. It's like, which obviously they shouldn't keep having babies if they can't afford them. But where do you draw the line? You know what I mean? To be able to force people to do a medical procedure like that. It's just like, I'm for it for the pedophilia for sure, but I'm not for it for other situations, and I don't want to sound like a hypocrite. You know what I mean? Yeah, I get that. I feel like so often when we talk about these stories of sex crimes that, you know, there's this argument that a lot of people don't see pedophilia and sex crimes as being as severe of crimes that they are. Even Nancy and Cheryl on Zone 7 this week were talking about this judge whose son is a serial rapist, and she lets a lot of other sex offenders off the hook. So I feel like a lot of people are committing these crimes, A, because they have mental health issues, and B, because there's really not as severe punishments for it than there are with murder cases, right? So I think this will help people, you know, that if maybe they can battle that mental issue they're having, they won't move forward with it because they know there's such severe punishments where maybe in the past they were kind of letting people slip through the cracks with this. So I don't know. I'm all for this, but I understand what you're saying at the same time. I can't believe that you're saying out loud that sometimes you hear, like recently, I feel like it's been happening in the past like 6 or so years that when you say stuff out loud, it's just so outrageous. Like there's a judge, so a highly educated person, highly educated in the law that is being easy on sex offenders against children. Like what? You would
Yeah.
think back in the day, you would say everyone's on the same page that sex offenders are just the worst things ever, especially against children. And now it's like you're learning that it's not like that, and it's just so weird to me.
I don't think a lot of people think that, which is a problem. Like, I am comfortable speaking about this because I will never change my opinion about this. I think rape is as serious as a crime as murder. If you have raped somebody, you have ruined their life effectively the same as you would have if you murdered them or tried to kill them or physically harm them. So I just think it's crazy that, there's judges, like you're saying, a highly educated person that's worked their entire life to reach this position, and they don't see it as an issue, and they're allowing their child to commit these crimes as well. It's really disgusting to me. And this whole conversation has come up with this term MAPS lately, minor attracted persons. I think it's,
oh God,
why are we catering to this?
I think that we're in a culture that everyone is like deathly afraid to speak out about things that they feel are wrong because they don't want to get canceled or whatever. And I mean, I don't give a shit because you can find a million reasons on things I have strong opinions about. But this, like you said, like I'll take this to my grave. I don't care if every single person around me starts saying, "Nah, this is cool." I just never, ever will think that way ever in a million years. So I'm sticking with my guns on this one. I don't want to hear in 5 years like, oh, that conversation didn't age well and this and that. Like, I don't give a shit. Then, like, call me a dinosaur. I don't care.
No, and I think the argument with calling them MAPS is you don't want to, like, quote unquote offend somebody with a mental disorder. And I agree to that to an extent. But
I don't care. If that's your mental disorder, then I will offend the shit out of you.
That's what I'm going to say. Like, we can all agree somebody that murders or takes the life of another human also can possibly have a mental disorder, right? But I don't see people, like, recalling them murderers, right?
Nah, they do.
Well,
they do.
You're ridiculous if you're partaking in that. Like, when is it going to stop? If you start making it okay, then it's going to become okay in society, and then our children are going to be affected.
Okay, let's get on to celebrity news a little bit later. I don't know if this is too lighter,
nothing
but
we talk about is light necessarily.
So we got some funny stories coming up.
In April, the singer Mandisa was found dead in her home by friends. So she was just 47 years old. She's most notable for being on American Idol in 2006. She went pretty far, and then a couple years after that, she actually won a Grammy, which is pretty awesome. But now her cause of death has been revealed as class 3 obesity.
So I've been saying this since I've been on Instagram over 10 years, and I used to get a lot of shit and people telling me that I fat shame people and stuff, but it is, in my opinion, as a person that does autopsy, it is what it is. It's like I commonly would see people who died as a result of complications from obesity, and there was this whole movement that went on for a couple years there of healthy at any size, just people like it was like circulating through social media about how obesity was healthy. It just was insane, the shit that was going on. And now all of a sudden I'm seeing a change in that tone because duh, it's not, right? And now I feel like this article, if it came out 3 years ago, it wouldn't even be saying this or acknowledging that you can die as a result of obesity. So we're gonna talk about this. We're gonna do every week in the grocery room we do a high profile or celebrity death dissection. So I'm really gonna go into this because there's 5 different classes of obesity, and it ranges from your BMI. So in the case of case 3, it's with higher than 35 BMI. But we'll talk about that in that post about how the BMI scale isn't 100% like the only indicator of marking. It wasn't just like, okay, this girl had this BMI of over 40 or over 35 if you have comorbidity factors. But if she just had that, they wouldn't just label her that was her cause of death. Do you know what I mean? Like there's a million other things that go into it. And I know people that are bodybuilders or have certain body types can just be tall or whatever, could just have different BMI. So you can't just measure that for obesity, but it's just an indicator. Like, for example, with grade 5 or class 5 obesity, it's like a BMI over 60. I'm sorry, like, I don't care how much weight you lift or anything, like, that's just not ever going to be good. So the BMI is just kind of to get you in a zone of how people weigh and then base it upon that.
And you're not coming from a place of cruelty when you're speaking out about this. You're like, these are my medical findings. This is what I've experienced firsthand.
And also, like, I'm not a skinny person. So it's not like I'm just this, oh, I was naturally born thin and I don't know what it's like and stuff. Like, I've been up to 220 pounds. I don't even know what my BMI was, but like I was like pushing a size 20 and like I've been there. And now I'm thinner than that now, but I'm still by no means a thin person.
Yeah.
I'm reporting what I see. Like, it's something that I struggle with too. So it's not like,
but it's about,
I'm sitting here looking from afar and judging people. It's a constant struggle in my life as well. But
people always make this assumption that you're judging somebody's physical appearance. And it's like, you're not. I'm trying to say, this is what I've seen in the lab and in the morgue. Make your insides healthy.
Yeah, it has nothing to do with what you look like. I don't care if your belly is just hanging down and it's unsightly, like that doesn't matter to me what I'm talking about. I'm talking about fat, visceral fat around your organs, because if you look that fat from the outside, you are that fat inside too.
Yeah.
And people don't ever see their insides and they don't see how that affects the way that their organs function. But your organs aren't meant to have that much fat on them. So that's why I talk about this.
Yeah. All right, so let's get on the opposite end of this. Actress Jameela Jamil is speaking out about her anorexia and laxative abuse. So she was talking to Kelly Ripa about her eating disorder, saying at one point she would take, quote, so many laxatives and turn to any diet that she could to lose weight. So can you explain what the dangerous effects of abusing laxatives are?
Well, it's kind of a vicious cycle that starts with this disbelief or a belief that these people have a belief that is something that's not really true, is that if they eat, especially people that have eating disorders where they binge, they take a laxative that's a stimulant and it makes them have diarrhea pretty quickly, right? And that assumption makes them think that they're not absorbing calories. So that's why they start doing it, right? But that's false, because when food leaves the stomach, like technically that theory could be used for throwing up right after you eat, because the food's not yet absorbed, like right after you eat. But once the food leaves your stomach and it goes to the small bowel, that's where the majority of your calories and nutrients get absorbed. Well, when you take a laxative, it doesn't work on your small bowel. It works on your large bowel, which absorbs the majority of water for your body. So all you're doing is kind of dehydrating you, and it's not really working. So then when you get dehydrated, you have an electrolyte imbalance and stuff, which then could cause you to become swollen and feel bloated and then feel like you need to take the laxatives again. And then it's like this vicious cycle of like an addiction. You keep taking them, you feel bloated, and you may lose weight if you take them and you abuse laxatives, but all it is water weight. It's not actually calories, because the calories are absorbed in the small bowel.
So she said, quote, I'm amazed I still have an asshole, to be perfectly honest. It's a real trooper. It's a survivor. So she definitely went through some hell with this.
Yeah, so what happens is over time, the laxative abuse could damage the nerves in your colon and cause them to stop working. And then because there's something in your colon called peristalsis, and that's, think about like impulses, like nerve, when you get a twitch in your eye, it's like twitches in your colon that kind of push your poop out. So when those nerves stop working, the poop doesn't push out naturally anymore. And then again, you get constipated and then you need to take laxatives again. And I've actually gotten a few small bowel or large bowel colon resections on people who were laxative abusers because their colon just like straight up stopped working. It's so sad. And then you have to get a bag and all. It's just terrible.
Yeah, so at least, she said publicly she's trying to come forward with her experience, because she
understands the damaging effects it had on her body now that she's going through it. But she was like, you know, coming up as an actress and everything, I just had this overwhelming feeling to be skinny, and I thought everybody was going to judge me, and now I see that that didn't really matter because I ended up hurting my body in a much worse way.
And when you hear stories like that, you could see, and this is just like everything in the world, right? You could see why there's a movement to accept everyone's body, because you have people like this. I just saw this clip on Facebook or Instagram, one of these reels that was showing an old episode of America's Next Top Model. Remember, we like religiously used to watch that? And it was Tyra and Nigel talking to some girl and telling her that she was plus size, and she might have been like on a bad day, like a size 8. Like they were telling her she was plus size. And that was only what, in the 90s? Like not even the 90s. It was in the early 2000s, right?
Well, yeah, and I remember when I interned at Elle, I remember one of the editors got, you know, like brands would send gifts and stuff, right? So they'd be more likely to feature said brand. And I remember we got this really expensive pair of jeans, and they were a size 4, and she kind of throws them, you know, in the like trash pile, like, these would never fit me. I'd be swimming in them. And I'm like, well, I'm going to try to sausage my body into these pants because they're expensive. I took them home. And at the time, I was like a size 4, 6, right? Like, that's like naturally the thinnest I can get with looking like ill, right? So I'm just like, it's ridiculous that we're making comments like, I'd be swimming in these and judging people. I think the biggest thing we need to take away is we have to just stop. We have to keep our comments about other people's appearance to ourselves, right? Like, why do you feel the need to go out of the way to go on somebody's Instagram and be like, you look disgusting, blah, blah, blah.
No, yeah, I agree with that. But like, and I feel like, I mean, do you think if I'm telling people that that being fat could kill them is doing that?
Well, I think people take it that way, but I think you're just trying to look out and be like, your insides need to be healthy.
I know, and I don't understand why. Like, I'm not like Tyra just being like, oh, you have to be a plus size model because you eat too much. It's like, I don't give a shit what you look like. It's just, and honestly, like, I don't give a shit either because it's not me. Like, if you wanna have fat on your organs, like, go ahead. I'm just putting it out there. Like, everyone asks me all the time, what's the most common thing you see? And it's just like, I see young women, and when I say young, I'm like between 50 and 60 years old, that shouldn't be dead, and they're always, always, always obese. Like, that's all I'm putting out there.
Yeah, and like, I just saw this interview with Dolly Parton the other day. It was just filmed within the last couple of weeks, and they asked what her biggest fear was, and she said the way people treat each other. And I'm like, this lady is in her late 70s and has seen some serious shit, and this is like her #1 fear in life, and I think she's being very genuine about it.
I also think it's definitely gotten worse since the internet, because now it's just like, oh, let's make a fake account, let's hide behind this account, let's post. On Facebook you could post anonymous. I can't say that word. Anonymously now, and yeah, it's just that's what's happening now. So it allows people to just be trolls behind their computer. And back in the day when you had to deal with people in real life, you just did what everyone else does and talk behind their back.
I know.
You're not mean to each other.
Exactly. I don't know. You're a real special type of loser if you're trolling people. That's just how I feel about it.
Yeah.
Or as Lillian likes to say.
I agree with that.
As Lillian likes to say, losser. That's what we've been saying in our family recently.
All right. Freak accidents.
All right, this story is really sad. So in Knoxville, a family's coming forward to talk about the dangers of leaving pets unattended with children after their 6-week-old baby was attacked and killed by their family dog in the baby's crib. So the family said while their baby was sleeping, one of their 2 dogs, which was a husky, randomly attacked the baby in the crib. This dog had not previously shown any signs of violent behavior. They had the dog for 8 years, and it was, they really didn't see it coming. So police are looking into this case, which the news pointed out was standard procedure, but you kind of wanted to discuss a weird quote that was said.
Yeah, so the mom, and I came across this because I saw a video on Instagram with somebody showing the interview with the parents, and then I was reading the comments underneath thinking, because I always want to hear what people have to say, and
you know, you read comments and you're like, oh, okay, like I could see why people are saying this. And so here's one of the quotes from the video. She said, this is the mother said, all the sleepless nights and the dirty diapers, looking back, I would take 1 million sleepless nights and dirty diapers and all the fussiness you would take back in a second and never take any moment or second for granted. And it's just like, why are you talking about sleepless nights and a fussy baby and when the kid just got killed by a dog? Like, I just feel like they don't really, it's not really relevant. Like, does that sound weird? Or
yeah, like I'm reading this quote, like the quote again is, really don't take anything for granted, even if it's a moment you're annoyed or in the moment or you're frustrated. So I do think it was kind of an odd thing to say, but at the same time, you know, people's brains totally short circuit when they're grieving. And
I mean, my brain short circuits every 3 minutes, so I understand that. And I do know that everyone deals with death differently. It's just there's a lot of different things. Like, the other thing is you have, and I'd love to talk to somebody, because I don't have a dog. I never had a dog, so I don't really 100% know how they behave. But I'm thinking like a baby that's 6 weeks old, they sleep hours a day. It can't even roll over yet, right? It's just like sitting there like a lump, quiet. Like, what would make a dog get up, a big dog, a husky's a big dog,
Yeah.
right? Get up somehow into a crib and just start ripping the thing to pieces. A dog that has no history of aggression. No, it just like, there's just something that sounds weird to me about that. And I've heard of dogs biting children for sure. Like,
Yeah.
it happens all the time, but it's because the kid like smacks the dog in the face or something, or, you know, a 2-year-old's annoying and hyper and in your face and they're at the same level of them and stuff. Like, this baby's like essentially like a stuffed animal. Like, why would the dog just attack it like that? It just sounds,
I mean,
it sounds weird
they
to
have
me.
to look into it, because the baby was attacked in the crib, like you're saying, sleeping. Why is such a large dog jumping in a crib? Is that even I mean, we don't have dogs, so we don't really know. So we'd appreciate insight from dog owners, especially people with babies. Like, has your dog jumped in the crib? Like, is this normal? Are they just naturally interested in a new thing being in the house? And I'm saying, I'm not trying to refer to the baby as a thing. I'm just saying, like, it's a new presence in the house, right? So, like, I don't really know.
Like, I could see cats, right? But like, do dogs climb like that? I mean, I thought a husky was
feel
like the size of like.
I feel like it would be, I wonder if it like knocked the crib over. I need more details about this. I think it's odd that a full-size dog like that would jump into a child's crib, which arguably the dog could knock it over, but was it knocked over? That's not really clear. So I just think we need some more info about this case. It's not sitting right.
I know. We have these stories every single week, honestly, but we don't even cover them because it's just like, it's a lot. But this week there was another one. So I was looking up to see how many people die a year from dog attacks, and it says it's only on average 50 people. But I guess we hear about every single one on the news, so it seems like a lot more probably. But there was a lady in Southwest Ireland, a 23-year-old, that had this dog called an extra large bully. I don't really, because I feel like my friend has a little one, and it's kind of like a cute little stumpy thing. It doesn't look like it could really do anything, but I don't know what an extra large bully is. But anyway, she was just there's videos of her on TikTok saying, quote, "This is my son, and I don't give a fuck if you think he looks aggressive, and I don't give a fuck if you don't like the look of him, and I surely don't give a fuck whether you think the breed should be banned." And it killed her.
But most eerily, in one of her video captions, she said, quote, "But if one of us dies, I hope I die first." So obviously, looking back, that's really scary to read. And the dog did end up killing her. So I don't think these countries are like banning dogs for no reason. At the end of the day, I totally understand people can have dogs and love them as your family and your children, but you also have to understand that their brains aren't human brains. They're not operating the same way. They are animals. So we have to think about that. you can love them like a human, but it doesn't mean they're going to start acting like a human.
Yeah, I think that that's a definite point, because I think that some people don't really. It's not even that, it's just all animals, and actually this next story we have involves an animal too.
A family was visiting the Fossil Rim Wildlife Center in Texas and decided to go through the safari in their pickup truck. So at this park, the visitors are allowed to drive themselves through a path to get closer to the animals and like feed them. Don't we have something like this at the Six Flags in North Jersey? They have a drive-through safari.
They do, but I believe that you're not allowed to roll the windows down.
Okay, so in this case, this mother and her...
Because I remember Gabe did, and I was just like, dude, what are you doing? Like, don't put the... You know what I mean?
Yeah, so in this case, a mother and her 2-year-old daughter sat in the bed of the pickup truck, so totally out in the open. They had food in their hand. I mean, I think they gave food out, so I think they're encouraging you to feed the animals at this one. So anyway... The toddler goes to hand the giraffe some food, and the giraffe, accidentally trying to grab the food, also clips the little girl's shirt and lifts her out of her mother's arms, which is all caught on video. It's absolutely nuts. It was only a couple of seconds, but that must be so scary as a parent. And the giraffe ended up releasing the baby back into the mother's lap, but I'm thinking, like, what if something happened really quick and she dropped her outside of the truck or something worse, you know?
What if it just went back up to its normal height of whatever it is? How tall is a giraffe?
Huge.
Like 12 feet or what? I don't even know how tall they are.
Way bigger than 12.
And I know, that's what I'm saying. Like, it just dropped the baby, like just dropped it, let it go, not trying to hurt it, but it could have. That's like a huge drop for a little kid. But there's a zoo near us, the one near my mom's house, that lets you feed giraffes and stuff. I think in general they're like really, they've stomped on a couple people in African safaris over the years, but they don't generally hurt people unless they feel threatened. And
yeah,
I don't think it was intentional. But this is what I was saying about the animal situation. Like the place that did this said, although an incident like this has never occurred previously, we are taking immediate action to make sure it won't happen again. Like, what are you going to do?
What are you going to have a presentation with all the giraffes and be like, don't grab a baby shirt? Like, they're animals. Their behavior's totally unpredictable.
I know. It's just like, I mean, I guess they just do that because they feel like they have to address it. But, like, come on. It's just so ridiculous. And it's the same thing we say all the time, like, when a shark bites an animal or bites a human or an alligator or something, and then they go to find it, to kill it, to get revenge. Like, it's just so weird.
It really is. I just keep having this visual of them, like, having this, like meeting room situation with all these animals. Like, don't do this next time. What are you supposed to do?
And you know what's really interesting? We didn't mention the dog that killed the 6-week baby. They did not euthanize the dog, and the dog is currently alive in a shelter right now. So,
well, we have this argument all the time, though. Like, if an animal is just acting like an animal, does it deserve to die?
Well, this is my thing. If you're talking about a shark or something that isn't really ever supposed to be near a human, or an alligator even, I don't see what the problem is of putting it back in the wild, because it lives in the wild and it's like not supposed to be near humans anyway. Like, we're kind of in their space, but dogs live with humans. So, I mean, I don't know what the circumstances are, and maybe that dog would be totally fine living with like a 70-year-old person and not ever hurt anybody again. But I just would be kind of concerned, like, why a dog that was perfectly normal killed a baby. Well, you know what I mean?
Maybe they're waiting to see what the investigation brings up before they decide to move forward with that or not.
Yeah. Because what kind of life is the dog going to have living in a cage too? You know what I mean? There has to be certain...
Yeah, I mean, maybe it's kind of like sitting in limbo waiting for them to analyze exactly what happened.
It said there was some kind of 10-day, like, hold or something like that. It was like a protocol that they did after this happened, so maybe that's what they're doing.
All right, this next one's another story we're going to touch on some more in the gross room because of how crazy this video ended up being. But basically,
This train was going from Canada to Mexico City. It's called the Final Spike Steam Tour. So it's this very big attraction. And in Mexico, the train was coming by at full speed. In this video, you see there are a ton of people totally unaware that this train is like, I don't know. I've just learned my whole life you don't go close to train tracks, right? And there is an overwhelmingly large amount of people very close to the train tracks. So this one woman decides to crouch down to take a selfie with the train in the background. Of course, this train's coming at full speed, so it clips her on the side, and she ended up dying.
Yeah, I mean, you guys have to see the video. It's just so outrageous, and it's not like one person taking the picture. There's 15 people that are standing way too close to a train that's going however fast it's going, Think about like if you were at a railroad crossing and the arm was down, they were on the other side of the arm, like way closer to the train than they should have been.
Only a couple feet from the tracks. And I think a lot of people also don't know, like, the train is not the width of the tracks. It is much wider than the tracks. So, like,
yeah, duh.
Yeah, like, you have to think about that. When I was just on the California Zephyr a couple weeks ago, we were even driving in areas of ranches where these cows, like, jailbroke out of the designated fence area and were basically right on the track, and I saw one tip over because of how fast it went.
But they're cows.
I know, that's what I'm saying. That's a cow that doesn't know better. People should know better.
Christ.
So this last one is, again, new fear unlocked. We always talk about these stories every week. So in December, a man was eating steak at a wedding reception, choked, and then died.
Yeah, could you imagine if someone died at your wedding?
No, I really can't.
Just like, how could you ever forget that? Even if it was just some rando guest that you had to invite,
Yeah, I mean, have you ever had a situation
like put a damper on the evening?
Have you ever had a situation at a wedding that you've been at?
I really haven't been to that many weddings. No, they've been like uneventful.
When I was a little kid, I was at a wedding on my dad's side, and somebody had a heart attack at the reception. And
really?
Yeah, that was like a whole thing, and the ambulance had to come and everything.
I remember that, actually.
And I was, 8 years old when that happened? I will never forget that.
Yeah, I do remember that, actually. But this guy, they were saying that this guy had 3 drinks, and then he started choking. They knew something was wrong with him. And when you drink alcohol, it does affect your swallowing reflex. So that could have something to do with it. How old was he? 70s? I think he was,
I
70s,
think
maybe
older.
But also, so he choked on steak, and like meat is a big one people choke on. Usually it's hot dogs, honestly. It's like the most common thing people choke on, especially children. But because when you chew meat, you ever chew a piece of meat, especially that like just doesn't break down and it's like a big bolus of food?
If somebody's choking, like what's the average time? Like you only have seconds, or do you generally have a couple minutes, or it just depends how big the piece is?
I don't know exactly what the time is for somebody to pass out like that. But I do know that you would, sometimes, like, we were in the restaurant the other day and there was a kid like coughing a lot, and everybody's like looking over, and I'm like, if someone's really choking, they're not making any noise. It's very quiet, and it's the same with drowning. It's not like, help me, I'm drowning and screaming, and it's quiet, because when you're having an asphyxial death, especially, or you're having asphyxia, like, there's nothing, you can't talk. You're not going to be able to make noise because something's blocking that hole.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, a lot of times, like, if you're not directly watching someone when it happens, it's really scary. But you can do things like the Heimlich and stuff. I remember, it happened to my sister once. I don't know if I ever told you the story, but we were at the softball field, and it was me and Annie. We were walking, and she was having one of these little pieces of candy that she got at the candy stand it was like a lifesaver, and then in the middle of it, there was like a whistle.
Mm-hmm.
So you would put it like up to your lips, and you would blow out, and it would like make a whistle noise, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, she put it like in between her lips. She was probably like 6 or 7, and I was like 8. We were little, and she put it in between her lips, and she like was blowing, and then she sucked in, and like it went in her mouth, but it was like a lifesaver that wasn't even sucked on yet, like a full size thing. But there was a plug, like the hole was plugged up, and
we so happened to be like walking with one of our softball coaches, and she noticed it right away. Like we all noticed it right away because she just couldn't talk, and she gave her the Heimlich and like it popped out.
Yeah.
But she like thank God that lady was there, because you know what I
would
mean?
you
That
have
could have
done
been
as
really
kids?
I wouldn't have done anything because I didn't know about that shit when I was a little kid, you know?
Yeah.
It was just so nuts how fast it was, and it was quiet. It was very quiet. Until afterwards when we were all freaking out. But,
Yeah.
you know, at the time it was nuts. This episode is brought to you by The Gross Room. For example, this week we talked about a couple stories of the train accident that we are going, I don't really know if we should consider it an accident, but the woman that was taking a selfie in front of the train. And we are also going to cover obesity as a high profile death dissection or celebrity death dissection this week. So we cover a lot of the news stories that we cover on Mother Knows Death. So you might want to join. It's only $5.99 a month to try it out. And then you might want to join for the year because it's just so awesome. And we have lots of content and lots of good engagement with the members. It's really like a good place to be.
Yeah, so you can visit thegrossroom.com for more info and to sign up.
Okay, let's get into violent crime.
There is scandal afoot at an elementary school outside of Houston, Texas. So this is a lot. First, let's get into the revenge porn side of this case. So a teacher at the school took several inappropriate videos of herself, one of which with her bare breasts around children's books and some toys, another taking her panties off, exposing herself in the bathroom. These were all clearly taken on the campus of the school, and her, teacher ID is in some of the videos, so she's not like trying to be secretive about it or anything. Anyway, so her ex-boyfriend gets a hold of these and starts sending them around. She had resigned from the school back in February for undisclosed reasons, but the school is saying they just found out about these videos within the last couple of weeks.
So do you think that she was sending these pictures to her boyfriend as like some weird kinky shit that they were into? Like,
she might have, but there's this whole, if you're a Bravo fan at all, if you watch Vanderpump Rules, revenge porn is like this huge deal right now because of a situation going on with two of the cast members. Mark Garagos is actually the lawyer in this big revenge porn case that's tied to Bravo. So, even if you take these videos and send it to a significant other with the intention of them seeing it, them sharing it outside of your bond can be considered revenge porn. So it's very interesting.
Yeah, I don't know, like, at this point why any adult would do something like that.
Well, many people do it.
Yeah, but, like, you know what's going to happen.
No, that's incorrect to say.
I could see children totally doing it, like teenagers and stuff, because they just don't really understand how the internet works and stuff. But why would you ever send something like that to a boyfriend?
Well, I think it's ridiculous to say it's going to happen because you could send it to a boyfriend that keeps it to himself and never shares it with anybody, and it doesn't make it right to share it with somebody. Just because you send it to somebody doesn't mean they're guaranteed going to share it. You should go into it knowing that's a possibility, but it's not a guarantee that that's going to happen.
Yeah, but why would you ever take that chance? It doesn't even matter if
people
like
are in long distance relationship. You don't know what's going on. A lot of people do it. Trust me, it's not a rare thing.
But even like whatever, if you want to do regular stuff, whatever. But like this is insane. Like with some weird fetish, like you're taking pictures with children's books. Like it's just
to
so
do it
weird.
at your job, especially when you work with children, is disgusting behavior, and you're an idiot for doing that.
Yeah,
I'm just saying the whole concept of sending sexy videos and pictures is not unique, but this lady is like, what are you thinking sending pictures like this at your place of work? Nobody should send it at any place of work, especially when children are involved. So that's idiotic. Anyway, there's a whole second side to this. So at the same school, there's also a murder scandal happening because in a separate incident, a 37-year-old teaching aide who worked at the school was found dead. The day after, her husband suddenly resigned for his job, and they're looking into this as a murder.
Do you ever think back, whenever I hear stories about teachers and stuff now, I always think back when I was a kid. And like, when I was a kid, my teachers were all like, most of them were like nice and magical, especially in elementary school, because this is an elementary school, right?
Yeah.
You don't ever really think of them as like real people, I don't know.
Yeah.
And it's like, even now, like the teachers at my kids' school, they're just like really nice, sweet people. And when you start to but then you had this teacher once that we knew that she was like kind of like a drunk slut outside of school. And
I
just
did?
going to the bar. Yeah, I didn't tell you at the time, but like I kind of knew because that's when Facebook was like a thing and you were seeing what was going on the weekend, and it was just like kind of weird to ever see like teachers acting that way. You don't want to think about like the decisions that people are making, like that are like essentially raising your kids. You know, your teacher
offline. I'm gonna need to know who this was.
Oh, okay.
I think I have an idea who it was, but
it's, you know what I mean? Like the teacher's with my kid like all day long. I don't want to think about the like crazy shit that she's doing outside, taking weird pictures and sending them like, oh, kids, I have to go to the bathroom real quick. Okay. And then she goes to the bathroom and she's like lifting up her shirt and taking pictures.
No,
like
that's completely inappropriate.
It's nuts, right? To think about that. So, and you're just like, what's going on in this school that these two major things are happening? Like, oh, well, we don't have a 3rd grade teacher right now and a 5th grade teacher because one is in a revenge porn case and the other one is murdered. Like, it's just so nuts.
One time, so I had a job right when I graduated high school at this local restaurant. And when I was, probably 18 or 19, one of my teachers from high school came in and got like blackout drunk. And I felt like it was such an invasion of like my privacy. Like, I can't explain. This was like,
I don't know if that's the right phrase.
Like, yeah, it's not the right phrase at all. I can't think right now. I'm having like major Friday
betrayal,
brain.
A betrayal of your trust.
Like, I all I saw this person was like you're saying in this like magical, polite environment where they're this like awesome teacher, and then to see them on the other end being a normal person is like, the weirdest thing
I hate
ever.
that too. It is. It's just like, it's gross.
And obviously teachers are real people and have real lives and families and are allowed to go drink and do everything else normal people do. But when you're like on the other end of that and then see it is such a weird thing.
Well, one of my cousins, our cousins, is a teacher, and she has like a fake name and all these restrictions on her Facebook because she doesn't want any of her students to like.
A lot of people do, yeah.
And which I think makes total sense.
Yeah.
But I guess back when you were a student, this was, I mean, when were you in middle school and high school?
I mean, Facebook came out when I was in middle school. So
like what year was that? 2000 and
like what grade? Like Facebook came out when I was in like 4th grade.
No, but I'm saying when you were in middle school and this was happening with this teacher, I think it was like 2006 or 2007-ish.
I can't think of what teacher this was. I need...
Or maybe it was even before that, like around that time.
Can you text it to me so I can understand?
No, later. But anyway, yeah, I think that was before like people really understood that like what was happening. Yeah. That when you post stuff, like everybody could see it. I know people still don't understand.
We went on a whole rant about this last week with boomers not understanding.
Yeah, and we had 2 situations this week of it again. So it's just like it's out of control.
This time, however, Beth was not a guilty party. So
Beth was not. She gets off the hook this week.
No. Yeah, like what as a parent, how would you feel if this was going on? Obviously, these like in my opinion, these situations are totally isolated from one another, right? Like it just so happens to be coincidental they're happening at the same school. But how would you feel as a parent with like one teacher showing up murdered, another one taking pornographic pictures in your child's classroom?
But I don't know. I don't know. I mean, we had a shady situation with one of the teachers at our school getting let go, and I'm not okay with it. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah. I mean, I think it really depends how the school decides to, address this and how they're going to take steps moving forward. Unlike with the giraffe story, they can have a meeting with them. Be like, don't do this, please. So, I don't know. It's just crazy that
you can't prevent yourself from getting murdered most of the time, but the porn thing is like, come on, dude. That to me is just like an adult life lesson. Just,
well, you should know if you're taking pictures of yourself inappropriately in a really inappropriate environment that it's probably going to come back to bite you in the ass. But I don't know. Let's move on to the next. In 2021, a 14-year-old girl and her boyfriend started receiving these harassing messages on social media over 10 times a day. So this went on for, about over a year. So she told her mother, named Kendra,
who then went to the police and worked with the boyfriend's mother to try to track down this bully. So after local authorities couldn't figure it out, they called in the FBI, who discovered the messages were coming from a private network. You know, we're seeing a lot of ads recently for companies that offer VPNs and these private networks and stuff, so it was used through that. So you have to know this person is taking extra steps to make sure they're concealing their IP address and everything. After further digging, the FBI discovered the IP address was coming from a device owned by the girl's mother, Kendra. So now there's this Lifetime movie coming out called Mommy Meanest, starring one of my favorite housewives of all time, Lisa Rinna. I'm going to watch this tonight for sure, now that we're talking about this. But it's kind of inspired by the story of, like, what would drive this mother to cyberbully their daughter for seemingly absolutely no reason and ruin their daughter's life. And now she was arrested and she's serving time. And
well, they coined a term that's called cyber Munchausen, which I think is amazing. Which is just it must be a new thing because they must have seen it more than once. But it's the mom getting attention because her daughter's getting bullied, but the mom is the one that's actually creating the attention.
Yeah,
I actually do that to you. All these mean comments you get all the time, they're all me.
Yeah, thanks.
I have a bunch of like burner accounts that I just harass you all day.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Boosting I still need you.
It makes me feel better as a person to insult you.
I need you as a 30-year-old person, you know. So Kendra was charged in December of 2022. When they initially, you know, approached her and were like, "We know you did this," she fully confessed to it because she didn't want it to go to trial. Probably because she didn't want the contents of said messages being read in a courtroom.
That's what I was going to say. Like, I hate that they're like, oh, the prosecution has not released them, but they're really mean. They're like really, really mean. And I'm like, God, I want to read them so bad. Release them.
I don't think you need a troll account to say something mean to...
I'm curious. Like, what the hell was she saying to this kid? It's actually really interesting. It's this weird form of mental abuse. Like, how does that girl feel knowing that her mom did this?
To be trolled by your own mother at 14 years old, like you're just innocently going about your life and your mom's harassing you on the internet.
Like, what a nut job, man.
No, absolutely crazy. This circles back to my argument about troll culture. Like, you're an absolute loser if you're taking the time to, like, this mother not only bullied her child, but took all these extra steps to access through a private network, try to conceal her IP address. She went
to the police station, fill out a report. All that shit takes time. Like, get a fucking hobby, lady.
Yeah, like, there's plenty of stuff you could be doing other than, you know, harassing your child. So now your kid definitely fucking hates you. You're in jail for this. You're never gonna have a good relationship with her. You've broken all forms of trust. Good going. Parent of the year.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, one of our gross room members sent this next story in. So, a 3-year-old boy and his mother were stabbed in an apparent random act of violence in a grocery store parking lot in Ohio. So this 32-year-old woman was taken into custody for the attack after being found by police still walking around holding the knife after the attack. They're saying that she got the knife from a local thrift store, walked over to the grocery store, essentially stalked them out inside the store, followed them out, and then stabbed both of them.
It's so terrible.
It is terrible.
These are the worst stories ever because when you go, I always find it easier to justify violence or deaths or anything if you can kind of go back and dissect out what happened and figure it out like, okay, well, maybe if she was arrested before, this wouldn't have happened and we could learn next time. And it's like when you go back, she only had like, the only prior offenses she had were like stealing something from Walmart, I think.
Yeah, like she had
that would be no indication.
Criminal history.
Yeah. So it's like no indication that something like this was going to happen. They sell knives at the thrift store. They sell knives at Walmart. They sell knives at Target. Like, it's just people need knives to cut their steak, you know, like.
And I don't think stealing is, you know, an indication that you're going to be violent. I think a lot of people steal.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like that there's just like nothing to go back and say that this could have been prevented. And that's the scariest part. And it's like this poor mom goes to a grocery store in the afternoon on a seemingly slow day, walking back to to put your groceries in the trunk, and this just happens.
And we haven't even said the worst part of this, which is the mother did not have life-threatening injuries, but the toddler ended up dying from it.
Yeah, it's just so terrible.
So
and
your child's murdered in front of you for no reason at all when you're just doing an everyday task like grocery shopping.
Yeah, I just can't even imagine. And there's statements from the government, there's statements from the grocery store, like everybody just feels disgusting about this. And clearly, like the lady, that was also what was disturbing, was they said there was no altercation in the parking lot, no altercation in the store. Like, she didn't know her. She just like randomly came up to her, and clearly like suffering some kind of mental health issue, because you don't just do that. It's just one of those like terrible, sad all around stories. It's just terrible.
All right. In other horrible news, a newborn baby was found abandoned earlier this year in London by a dog walker. The baby was wrapped in a towel inside of a bag on the coldest night of the year. So the BBC had noted in this article that abandonment of children in the UK is something that's incredibly rare.
Yeah, and it's not so rare here. Unfortunately, they actually started putting these safe boxes in fire stations, encouraging people that if they had a pregnancy that they didn't want, and they didn't get an abortion and they went to term, or whatever reason they didn't want the baby, that they would drop it off safe. I think it's called like a safe haven law maybe, or something. I don't remember, but you would drop the baby off safe, and as long as the baby was safe and put into this box at the fire department, there would be no questions asked. It was like a don't ask, don't tell. And then the baby would get adopted out. We talked about this on earlier episode.
Yeah.
One of the firemen actually adopted the baby, which was like such a cool story. So in this case, they think it's weird because it never happens there. So they've already had it happen a couple other times.
Yeah, so when they found this baby, they ran DNA testing and actually found that this baby was linked DNA-wise as a full sibling to 2 other babies that were found in a similar manner in 2017 and 2019. So basically, the same set of parents have now abandoned 3 children in the same exact manner.
Like 3 full-term infants.
Yes.
This baby that was just found had the umbilical cord still attached and was estimated to be about an hour old. So this woman went through 3 pregnancies with the same guy and gave the baby up, but didn't safely give the baby up. And that's why we have it under the violent crime section, because they left the baby in sub-zero temperatures to die for someone to find, and luckily somebody found it.
Yeah, so what we like hearing in this case is that these babies were all safe. The older children had been adopted, and this baby is in foster care for now, so hopefully she will be adopted out soon.
It's just really nuts, right?
Yeah.
I mean, once is like, could you imagine doing that once? You'd be like, okay, this is never happening again. This is terrible.
I can't imagine doing it once, but I know, people are in certain like mental situations or in certain life situations where they genuinely don't know what to do, and it doesn't make it right, but like I have more of an understanding. But to do it 2 and then 3 times, it's like you need to control yourself.
Yeah, just I don't know. I mean, the couple's been together for years.
Yeah, clearly, and like I don't know. I'm just like, is it a situation of like incest or something horrible? Like, I don't know. Like, just stop having kids or use protection or something. Like, I just find this completely unacceptable.
Yeah, I do too. But I mean, now DNA's, we always say this, it's a whole new ball game. They'll find who the parents are, and they're going to go to jail.
Yeah.
Because this can't, I mean, they're lucky that somebody found the babies. That's all. Like,
when I was waiting,
it's child abuse and it's child neglect.
When I was waiting for a session at CrimeCon, they had like little commercials before the session, and there was one for GEDmatch. And in the commercial, they said over 400 cold cases have been solved since GEDmatch came out. And like, people must be shitting themselves if they've committed crimes in the past.
Yeah, right? It's nuts. And that's what you hear. Like, these people are getting caught and they're 80 years old. They committed a crime, 50 years ago and shit. It's just so nuts. Like, you might think your whole entire life is lived out, and now I want to know who the parents are. I wish we could talk to them and just be like, so what's the deal? Like, what are you thinking here?
Yeah, exactly. And like they were saying in this article that typically they wouldn't release information like this in the UK, but because of how extremely rare child abandonment is, mixed with the fact that 3 full-blooded siblings have been abandoned all in the same way over the course of a couple years, they had to mention it for public interest.
Well,
So
and also like just think about normal people that go to work or have friends or have family. Like nobody noticed that this woman that you're friends with, this couple's like your kid, this couple you work with, whatever, and nobody noticed that this woman was pregnant all the way full term 3 times and doesn't have any kids. Like where'd the kids go?
I don't know what's going on the other end. I would very much like to hear this story about what's going on. So,
all right, let's get into medical news.
A new study has come out debunking that men are more likely to buy guns to make up for unsatisfactory penis size. Actually, the study found that men who are more comfortable with their penis size are more likely to buy guns.
I love this. I was talking to someone at CrimeCon, had messaged me on Instagram about some comment I made about my brain being all jumbled up all the time because of menopause. And we were talking about this, how like menopause affects like literally like half of the population that are female, right? And they don't really like do anything to try to fix it. And it's like, but I'm glad researchers are spending their time to see that like penis size and gun ownership have to be a correlation of some sort.
Yeah, you opened your session being like, excuse me if there's like a lapse in me talking or I fumble some words because I'm going through menopause. And a lot of people resonated with that and thought that was awesome that you said it out loud because it's kind of this like unspoken thing people have to go through. And I know you were talking about it with a couple people backstage too. So yeah,
because it happens. Like I said, like if I just look like I'm like staring dead in space, I just like forget what it happened to me yesterday. I went in the house to get Lillian's inhaler and I walked in and I was just like, why did I come in here? And I stood in here for 5 minutes and I was like, I can't remember why I came in here. Like it's terrible because I always pride myself on my excellent memory, but the short term is really getting nasty with menopause. But like, I'm sure there's some kind of way to fix it, but no, let's do these kind of studies. It just makes so much more sense.
Of all the things in the world we could be doing studies on, why this?
Yeah, I mean, I could sleep better tonight knowing that men that are satisfied with their penis sizes are the ones that are actually buying guns.
Like, good for you. So, okay, let's talk about this new trend called drunkorexia.
So they're thinking that this is actually going to be considered a diagnosable thing, although it's not yet. But it's a combination of people who are drinking and alcoholic, as well as people who are anorexic or having an eating disorder. And it's so crazy because it's more common in women, and especially like younger women and college age women. And they did a research sample size of Australian female university students and found that 79.1% of them reported engaging in this behavior, which is starving yourself in order to drink more calories or just to be able to have more alcohol and consuming less actual food. I know people that do this.
I do too, and I think it's just like common knowledge people do this. It's kind of wild that there's like a term for it now.
I mean, there's a part of me that thinks that there should be some level of this because I know a lot of people who like to eat, like people that struggle with their weight and people who like to eat, like me. I struggle with my weight and I eat a lot, but I don't drink alcohol. So if I did, I'd be adding that extra like couple 100 to 1,000 calories just drinking a night on top of eating 2,000 calories, 3,000 calories, whatever you're having if you go out to dinner. So I think a lot of people don't put the 2 and 2 together that you could also drink your calories, which can contribute to obesity. So I think people should be more aware of it. Like if you want to drink a lot one night, let's say, maybe you should get a salad instead of like a steak with a fried onion that's 3,000 calories. Like, you should be aware of it and think that way, but not
like you shouldn't
starve
be
yourself.
starving yourself.
Yeah, and deplete yourself of food and calories. I just think just making kind of like better choices. Like,
I think that's not good for your body also to have like nothing in your stomach at all to kind of absorb it.
Yeah, and that's what's happening. Like, they're binge drinking, and then you're not, like, if you, especially you're a college student and you're not eating all day, and then you're drinking alcohol, that's like your only nutrients of the day. So you're getting drunk faster. You're depriving your body of vitamins and nutrients, and you're trying to have your brain work because you're in college.
Yeah.
Like, what do you think is going to come of that? So,
no, it's not good.
All right, other death news.
Back in October, a morgue worker named Ryan Smith had been arrested after breaking into a dead guy's apartment attempting to steal a sex doll. So, if you're a grocery member, you may recall that we talked about this story before when it was first reported and he had been arrested. But Law and Crime has some more details about the case now. Just a little background. So, on October 6th, police got a call about a dead male in an apartment. The detective then called a local funeral home to transport the body, which this is standard protocol, right?
Yeah, they have to get someone to bring the body. So it would either be, in some cases, the police would just bring the body to the medical examiner or the coroner's office. But other times they call other transport to come pick them up. It just depends on the situation.
Okay, so the funeral home sends 2 workers, one of which was Ryan. So the detective wrote, quote, "Near the body on the bed was a very real-life size version of an adult female. Both of the males that came to collect the body made comments about the sex doll found on location." Later that day, the detective gets a call from the apartment manager saying that somebody who, aka Ryan, called looking to retrieve the sex doll, saying that the sheriff needed it for evidence and they, quote, "wanted it to collect swabs for biopsy."
Which makes no sense.
I'm not even a medical professional, and I know that makes no sense at all. So anyway, whoever took the call, let him go back in. They didn't really question it. So then they walk by the apartment later that night and notice the door is shut and locked. So the manager then proceeds to go open the door and finds Ryan all disheveled with his shirt untucked and his pants slightly down. So they call the detective and they go back to the scene and find that the sex doll had been, quote, altered and other evidence on the scene had been moved. So now, in fact, they have to take the sex doll for DNA evidence because this gross dude went back and had sex with it, clearly.
They said that there was the gloved hand felt a sticky substance on the doll. Like,
disgusting.
Well, this is like super interesting territory. So I know that these super realistic sex dolls can be kind of expensive. I've heard them being in the thousands and thousands of dollars. So I did a simple Google search, like, how much is it a realistic sex doll? And it came up with, they sell them on Amazon. Okay? Which I didn't even think about that. So I go on it and I'm like, oh my God. And they're like $1,500, right? That was like the average price of them.
Do you think, sometimes when you order larger items and it's like, we can't pack this in another box?
Yeah, without saying what it is.
Yeah, so do you think like they just slap a label on something on somebody's porch that says real life sex doll?
I don't know, but listen, this is going to be the best part of this particular story. So, of course, I go to see the reviews, which there's not many, because I'm like, who the hell is going to stick their name to this right now? And this was from a female, actually, and it says it's 5 stars. Title of the review is "My Money Was Not Wasted." "She is definitely worth the price of admission. She is more realistic than my first TPE doll." I don't know what a TPE means. "Skin textures are replicated like real people. She is also lighter and easier to operate than TPE dolls, which can save a lot of time," because we know that we're worried about time when we're having sex with a sex doll. "Sometimes I have the illusion that my ex-girlfriend is sleeping next to me. I miss my ex-girlfriend very, very much. I think this silicone doll is the best replacement."
All right, then.
Here's another one. This is called Real. This is also by a woman, because this is a female sex doll. So I'm just curious. I want to know what the demographic is that buys these things. This sex doll is the real deal. The appearance is very realistic. Her breasts and private parts are made to look like real people. She feels like a real companion and a fun sex toy worth my money. Amazon reviews are the best to read, but I never even would have thought that you could just buy like a sexual partner on Amazon, but here we are.
You can buy like sex toys and stuff, so I guess it's just a really sophisticated version of a sex toy, right? So,
I mean, they look like people. My only thing is like, where the fuck do you store that thing in your house that nobody sees it? Like, would you be embarrassed to have that?
I guess like your bedroom closet. I don't know. Like, I don't know. People have sex wings installed in their bedroom, and they have, like whole rooms devoted to BDSM shit. Like, I'm sure if you're at the point of buying one of those, you know exactly where you're putting it.
Or in this case, you die and it's next to you, and
the thought of sleeping next to it is creepier than having sex with it, in my opinion.
Yeah, like a replacement of your girlfriend that you miss. It's so weird.
So anyway, Ryan was taken into custody and charged with 1 count each of burglary, impersonating a peace officer, first-degree criminal trespass, and tampering with physical evidence.
Do you think when he showed up to that scene to take that body, because he just went to take a body to the morgue, something that he's done multiple times before. Do you think that when he walked in, like he had a sexual attraction to this plastic doll that was laying there? I mean, think about how strong that has to be that you would go back and make up some story.
Well, I mean, clearly him and the other guy were like snickering about it, so they must have been talking about it. I would like to see what it looked like. I'm just very curious. Because I was at first envisioning, the ones that are
like a blow up. That's the one I saw on a death scene once, on a homicide scene. Yeah, like that was real neat. The photos of that I saw, but no, it says that it's realistic, and that's another thing too. Like when you work with dead people, like I do and Ryan does, right?
Yeah.
Why would you want to stick like your penis or your privates anywhere near like a thing that was laying next to a dead body?
I kind of have a feeling, I have an inkling that upon further investigation, they're probably going to find some cases of necrophilia.
I don't know about that. I just think that the guy's just I don't necessarily know about that. I just think that he's like kind of like a loser, and he know what I mean?
Maybe this sex doll was on his Amazon wish list and he couldn't afford it, and then he was like, "Oh my god, there it is in real life. I'm gonna go test the waters."
I mean, it's a lot. They're like $1,500 to $2,000 on average. That's a lot of money.
That's what I'm saying. Maybe he just wanted to try it out before committing to paying full price for it.
I don't know.
But was it worth going to jail? So
was it worth your picture being on the internet associated with this story is more likely the question.
Yeah. All right. This next one. So at CrimeCon, we met the incredible Laura Ingle. I could have talked to her forever about, all these high profile cases, including like Brian Koberger and, the Menendez brothers, which she spent a lot of time covering. So Laura did one of the last panels at CrimeCon with Mark Garagos, and we both unfortunately had to miss this session, which we were like pissed in advance that we knew it.
Yeah, like I had to go be with my kids, and I'm like, thanks, kids.
Yeah, so we were both really mad we had to miss it because it was towards the end of the convention, and I was enraged when I saw that they called Lyle Menendez live from prison on the stage.
Yeah, and so why don't you tell them about, just for people that are unfamiliar, I know that everybody is, but we just should.
Again, this is another high profile case we have in the gross room if you want like all the intimate details of the case, but just very basically, Lyle and his brother Eric had killed their parents with a shotgun in their Beverly Hills home in 1989, I believe, and it later came out that they were possibly victims of lifelong childhood sex abuse and physical abuse at the hands of their father. Their mother allegedly knew about it and kind of just let it go on, so they hit a breaking point and then killed their parents. So over the years, all this new evidence has come out, and they've had all these letters written by other family members begging for their sentence to be reduced to manslaughter, which if it does get reduced to manslaughter, they will have served their time already instead of life in prison that both of them received. So, now they're kind of trying to fight against it and appeal it, but Lyle called into CrimeCon to talk about, his life, what his life could possibly be like if he gets out. I really hope they get out. That this story is, it's so devastating to me from the perspective of a child that was sex abused, that was a victim of sex abuse, that both of them were, and now they're a victim of the criminal justice system. And it's just so sad to think that a kid would go through that kind of trouble. And one of the things that I mentioned in the high profile death dissection is like, these kids were they were rich kids, right? They had like a life of privilege. They had the best cars. I think they had like a tennis court at their house.
Yeah.
Just like, they had everything. And the prosecution was trying to say that they killed their parents for their inheritance. And it's like, why would they kill their parents for their inheritance if they already had everything they wanted?
Exactly. And
it just doesn't make any sense.
So Lyle said he's been studying for a master's degree, and he's, trying to work on how he would reintegrate back into society. His master's degree is going to be in urban planning, and he hopes to use it to, try to have somewhat of a normal life after since he was a teenager, in jail.
Yeah, and I mean, getting back to my point is that why would they kill their parents for an inheritance when their parents were sitting there watching TV and they were eating ice cream and it was a Sunday night? They went in there and killed their parents like that. Like, why would somebody do that in that situation? It wasn't like set up like a robbery, correct? It was just like,
no. And at first they acted like they didn't.
Well, they tried to get out of it because but think about this. The prosecution during that case for their first trial, because there was 2, right?
Yeah, they had 2 trials.
The first one, the prosecution said, this is a quote actually, "Men cannot be raped because they lack the proper equipment to be raped."
Which is ridiculous, know.
So when the prosecution's like, the part of the government that's supposed to be protecting you has that kind of an attitude, like, why do you think these guys took matters into their own hands and killed their parents?
Well, yeah, so there was many issues. This case blew up for a reason, right? Because it's like these 2 wealthy teenagers in this really nice neighborhood kill their parents seemingly to get their inheritance or for no reason. And then, the first time around, their defense team submits that they were sexually abused, and then you have the prosecutor saying what she said, that men can't be raped. And then the second trial comes around and they don't even allow any evidence of sexual abuse at all. And at the same time, the OJ trial is going on, which, he got acquitted, as we all know from history, and they needed to make a point because this was all going down in LA at the same time. So they really tried to make an example out of these boys. And over these years, all this new evidence has come out from family members. The father was this big music executive that oversaw these teenage boy bands, and a lot of the members of these boy bands have come forward saying they were also raped by the father. So what would they have to gain from that, right?
I know. It's just like, even if the guy gets out, his life has already been taken away. I do hope, though, that he can get the satisfaction when he's older to say that, like, you need to take this more seriously. Like, even if his life was sacrificed for this, hopefully, like, this helps other cases like this. Because it's just, I don't think they really ever showed evidence that these kids just wanted to, I guess it was because they spent a lot of money after the parents died, but it's just like, okay, well, guess what? They got sexually abused their whole life, and then they just killed their parents. Like, maybe they just wanted to have some retail therapy. Sorry. I just don't.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't see the point of what they were trying to prove.
When you hear the case, just like, okay, these 2 wealthy kids killed their parents, you might think like, oh, they were brats or something, right? But when we wrote this up last year and really started looking into all the details of it, and then I'm watching all these documentaries, I'm like, I don't think they're guilty. Like, they're obviously guilty of committing the crime, but you have to be pushed to a point of doing that. It's kind of the same argument with Gypsy Rose Blanchard, right? She has been proven to be this victim of lifelong child abuse, and enough is enough at some point.
Yeah, I just don't see a problem with it.
It doesn't necessarily make it right that they killed their parents, but I have a better understanding of the position they were in to feel like that was the only way out of their situation.
Yeah, totally.
So I think it's really cool that they called them on stage. I'm very jealous I was not in the audience to witness this live, and bummed I had to read it in an article.
Hopefully we could talk to we'll talk to Laura on the show. Hopefully we could have her on and talk about that. That would be really awesome.
Yeah.
All right, so this next story, a 70-year-old woman who was on hospice had been pronounced dead and transported to a funeral home, only for 2 hours later for a funeral home worker to discover that she was actually breathing.
So she was alive for 2 hours in a body bag, which is terrible. What's even more terrible is think about people that work in our field. So you're in a funeral home, you always see dead people. When you're in the morgue and you open the body bag, you always see dead people, right? Like that would be completely terrifying to open a body bag and find out that the person wasn't dead.
Well,
it would
people
be very,
are always asking you that question.
It's just, it would be very apparent because they would still be warm. Like that's number one thing, especially if you're like, oh, this person's been in the fridge for 2 hours. Like what? Why are they still this warm? And you would maybe see them breathing or even shallow breaths. Like I can't imagine what I would ever do in that case. I mean, but think about this. The funeral director started doing CPR on this person, waiting for the EMS to arrive. And you wouldn't even think about that. Like, how would you know how to even do that? I don't really, I mean, I've seen it on TV and stuff, but, you know, how would you really know that?
I don't even know what I would do.
But regardless, they said that there's an autopsy that's pending, right? So they're going, which I'm kind of like, who cares? Like, what are they going to see? Like, this lady was on hospice, so clearly they knew she was going to be dying at some point anyway. So
she did die again.
She died. Like, I don't know how long later. I just saw the story came out. That, I mean, she was 74 and she was on hospice. So if they do the autopsy, let's say she had stage 4 cancer or she had dementia or something, like all they're going to do is see that pathology. They're not going to see anything different than they thought she was dead and she wasn't. And that's, the autopsy really isn't going to help in that determination.
Yeah, and like, was it a matter of like, you know, they pronounced her dead a couple of hours too early, right, and sent her over, and then so I wonder, did it say how long she died after the funeral? After the funeral home discovered she was still breathing?
I don't know when I don't know what day the original story was published, but it was 2 days ago. They said that she had died for real this time.
Yeah, so she was going to die basically anyway. They were just a little early with sending her over there. So
yeah,
it's sad. Okay. This last one. So on June 1st, a bus driver in Baltimore called police after finding a fetus on one of the bus seats. And then 2 days later, on the same exact bus, a second fetus was found.
I mean, what do you say? I don't know. It was a stillborn fetus, so it was over 20 weeks. So it was at least halfway done. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, I don't know. They don't say how old the fetus was. And they also say that both of the fetus, after they sent the feti, I don't know what you really say for plural, but when they were sent to the medical examiner's office, they did an autopsy and said they were both indeed stillborn, which means that they died of natural causes.
I'm thinking what happened is that the story broke about fetus number 1 being found, and then maybe another person,
they cleared the bus and found the other one.
No, and then a person watching the news in a similar predicament was like, oh, I'll go put my fetus there too. Not knowing what to do.
How would you get a fetus?
No, like they had the stillbirths at home and were like, I don't know how to get rid of this, and then heard that another one had been found, so they thought it was a good...
Yeah, this story is just so freaking weird.
Because they don't think like it's stillbirth, right? So there's no criminal investigation behind it.
No. The only thing I was thinking was that, because I want to know what, they do DNA tests to see who it is.
Like, you think they're connected?
Are they twins? Yeah. How could it not be connected? When would you ever find a fetus on a bus?
I know, but wouldn't they say they were of the same size?
They might not know. They might. I don't know. I'm just thinking like if this person, like, yeah, and was it just the fetus? Was there the placenta? Did the person give birth on the bus? Was the person pregnant with twins and gave birth to one and then the other one came out? Did the baby still have a cord attached? Like, what's happening?
I don't know. I do think this is insane, though.
Because it's like a miscarriage, basically, right? So, like, how did this happen?
I really don't know. I don't think the person would have given birth on the bus. I think that would have been way more obvious. Because birth is birth, right? It doesn't really matter.
Weirder shit happens on the bus. In a city like Baltimore. I just saw a video of, they have like wrestling matches on the train in New York. like straight up people jumping off the things and off of the chairs on the side there and like body slamming people and stuff.
Maybe we
with
should,
like audiences that pay.
maybe we should have a new category called "What the hell happened here?"
Or
Of just like the total mysterious, like how did this even happen? What is possibly going on?
Like there's just like there's
cameras on the bus too. They don't.
I don't know. There's just no way that this is related. This is not related, right? This is. What am I trying to say here?
You're having menopause brain right now.
Exactly. They're the same. They came from the same vagina. That's what I'm trying to say.
I don't think so. I think somebody got inspired by the dump site. And
do you want to make a bet on this?
I don't think we'll ever hear back.
That's the worst part. We never hear back. It's just kind of like, why are you even bothering like giving us this dick tease of a story if you're not going to give us the full details of what's happening?
That's what our listeners are probably saying too to us. Why are you if you're not going to circle back?
They have to suffer with us.
Okay. On to question of the day. Every Friday at the @MotherKnowsDeath Instagram account, so that is today, you can go over to our story and ask any question you want. First, are there any serial killers that you would interview and why?
This is my thing. I don't have any kind of restrictions of interviewing anybody. So if any serial killer ever like wants to have an interview with me, I'll do it. I don't care. Like what? I could go to jail and visit them. I don't care. I'm not scared of it or anything. I just like, I want to talk to everybody about everything. So I would love to ask any serial killer. I don't have a specific one that I would want to talk to, although like talking to people like Gary Heidnick or Jeffrey Dahmer, but they're not even alive, right? So it's like, is Gary Heidnick alive? No, he's not alive, right?
I don't
know. Think so. But regardless, I can't even talk to them right now if they're dead or whatever, but I am interested in especially in the ones that eat their victims. It's kind of like this other level of, craziness. But what about you? Do you have a particular person that you're interested in?
Yeah, I mean, I'm very interested in the Golden State Killer case, and he is alive and recently captured after having committed all these crimes in the 70s. But he is so scary to me. I don't think I get, like, you have to think with, I know you're not as familiar with this case, but it wasn't that he just would break in these women's home and hide in their bedroom closets for hours. Even, like, let's say you got home from work at 5 o'clock, right? He would be in your house since 1 o'clock and not pounce on you till 9 o'clock. So you would be in the house with him for 4 hours.
It's creepy, but they're in prison. What are you scared of?
No, I know.
Not like you're meeting them on a date.
No, I know. But then with him, it's like, then he would attack you. So this is when more so when he was raping people, because obviously he progressed to killing people later. But then he would call them for years after and just breathe in the phone and whisper things to them. And that is the scariest thing in the world to me. So I am most interested in that case for many reasons.
What would you ask him?
I would just be like why the torture? Like, I think it's bizarre to commit the crime and then just torture these people and their family members for years afterwards. I just am curious why.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it would be cool.
Also, something he did was every time he raped somebody, he would put a towel over a television that was on. So they were saying Detective Paul Holes, actually, who we met last week, I heard in an interview, said that when they finally went to arrest him and entered his home, they confirmed that 100% it was the right guy, not only through DNA, but because when they went through his home, he had towels or blankets covering every device in his home. And it was a very particular MO he had that was not public information.
Yeah, that's interesting.
So I'm very curious about that. The whole case is very fascinating to me. At one point, they thought he was 3 different people, like stalking, rapist, killer.
Yeah.
And then they connected him to being one. So, but he's so scary. But he's like pop-up age now. You know, it's kind of crazy.
A lot of them, though, when you get to see them, especially when you know for sure they did the crime, like when you look in their eyes, you're like, they're scary as hell. But a lot of people that know these people in regular life and stuff didn't necessarily always think that.
And would you consider Kohberger a serial killer? Because, like, the way I think of serial killers is somebody that commits like one crime at a time and is repeating them.
not killing multiple people in one instance. You know what I mean?
I think he would be considered, because if he killed 4 of them separately, I mean, it's just that's probably like, I don't know about all of this, the category, how people are categorized like this, but because it's definitely different if you go to someone's house and shoot 4 people as opposed to what he did, right? So
Yeah.
so there's this other level of like, I mean, especially when you stab one person, it's just harder to get them down than if you shot them, let's say. But then to actually be able to go to multiple rooms and kill all those people without anybody escaping like that, it's just like, it's very brazen to even try to attempt that and to be successful at it, which means that I really think that he probably studied like anatomy and like which things to do first, and like kind of went in with a plan. It's just like a little bit calculated and like intimate.
Yeah, like I'm curious, like if anybody's a crime scene investigator or knows better than us, please let us know in a message or comment or something. Like, would he be categorized as a serial killer or like a mass murderer, or are they different? I think there's different characteristics, like somebody that has a pattern and goes multiple times and does it not all in one instance.
He was like he didn't impulsively say like, you know what, that person stole my glasses, I'm gonna why did I say glasses? Like stole something from me, and I'm gonna go shoot them, right?
Yeah.
It wasn't impulsive, it was planned. And to kill multiple people and plan it, I think is probably, I would say, is what is considered a serial killer.
Yeah.
Like killing multiple people. It's just it's an interesting question, because when you think about, for example, like let's say, for example, the guy that shot all, I don't remember what his name is, but the guy that shot all the people in Vegas a couple years back.
Yeah.
Like, he killed 50 some people, right? Like, he's technically a serial killer, but like you wouldn't.
Well,
like,
I don't
we have
think
a new term for that,
this
which
is the
is
thing.
like a mass
I
shooter.
don't think he is. I think there's like mass shooter, mass murderer, and then there's serial killer. So that's why I'm wondering where Koberger lines up, because it's like there's instances where you're killing a lot of people in one session, or you have like multiple planned out attacks that all meet the same MO. I'm going to look more into this because I'm fascinated.
Okay.
Because the term serial killer didn't come up until it's not even like 100 years old, you know? So
yeah.
But I'm going to look it up. All right, next. How do you talk about death with your children?
Well, we haven't had, luckily, any situations that they've had to personally deal with it yet, which they will, because this is a lesson I teach them all the time, is like, you're human and everyone you know could possibly die at any time. So, and I've been trying to say that to them since they were little kids. Like, Lillian went through it a little bit, that she was having this like fear of death for a while, and I was just like honest with her, and I was like, Lillian, you are going to die one day. Like, I think a lot of parents would say, no, that's not going to happen, and this and that. And it's like, I feel like when you talk to your kids that way and you kind of like candy coat stuff that's not really the truth, if it really happens, it's hard for anyone to deal with death, no matter what, no matter how prepared you are. But I think a child might almost be like, no, my mom said this couldn't happen. Like, how could this happen?
Yeah, like, I don't think you need to go out of your way and be like, you're going to die, but you should be honest.
I don't go out of my way to say it, but if she was having a meltdown and she would say like, I'm scared I'm going to die, I would say, you are going to die. And you know what? Like, she doesn't do that anymore. So I feel like I did it a couple times, and I was just like, listen, like, your cat's going to die. Your dad's going to die. Your mom's going to die. We're all going to die. Like, we're here on this earth for this many, you don't even know how long. So, like, live your life every day. Number one, you don't have control over it. Well, you do to an extent, if you live a healthy life or not. And that's what I say to them. Like, if you live a healthy life and you could be like on a strict healthy diet of organic foods every day and never drink alcohol or smoke a cigarette, and you could still have some weird genetic cancer, or you could get hit by a train taking a selfie, right? Like, You aren't in control. You're semi in control a bit, but not really. And you just have to live your life every day, like enjoying your life and not, because why would you waste your time? This was like my whole entire argument with COVID. Like, you're so scared of dying that you're not living. It's like, that's my argument with life.
Yeah, like, I think you just have to enforce with them, like, it will happen at some point, but you don't need to sit here every day waiting for it to happen.
Yeah, and also I say, like, especially with kids, it's like there's a possibility that there's a child that they know that would die one day, just because kids do die. We talk about it sometimes, and it's freaking terrible. It's the worst thing that could ever happen. But you just say the likelihood of that happening is like, most people die when they're older, and you know, we're lucky we don't have these diseases in our family and this and that. You just say things like that. And you know, I think one thing that's coming out, like, as we get like more evolved as humans, is that you don't have to talk to kids like they're like in baby talk. They want to know the truth. You just have to say it in a way that they understand and is more age appropriate. But by hiding it, I don't think that benefits anybody.
Yeah. All right, last question. Do you guys have any plans this summer?
Well, we just got back from our cross-country trip and then Nashville. So I'm just enjoying just being home with Gabe and going in the yard with the kids and going in the pool and like doing our gardening. That's like, I mean, we'll go down the shore, of course, because that's easy, but
yeah, like this is probably like all my trips for the year, minus work engagements we possibly have later in the year. So like, I'm probably not doing anything. I also kind of want to do like a day or a couple days somewhere for my 30th birthday, but I don't even know yet. So I don't know. I think I'm going to go down the shore for a week, maybe in the late summer, just chill out. Like, I don't even really like going on the beach. I just like being like in with the ocean air. I always say my favorite soda ever is when you get soda down the shore, because it tastes like the ocean a little bit, which everybody thinks is disgusting, but I think tastes like vacation.
No, it does. It has like a low grade ocean taste.
It's delicious. It's the taste of vacation.
It's funny that you like that, because you just despise seafood, and like the ocean tastes like seafood. Like, that's what it is. It's an ocean full of seafood water.
I know that. The thing is like, I want to like seafood. I just can't. I try it all the time and I just don't. It's not like I am being picky. I try it constantly. I just don't like it. I can't explain it. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much. We will see you next week.
We'll see you next week. Thank you for listening to Mother Knows Death. As a reminder, my training is as a pathologist assistant. I have a master's level education and specialize in anatomy and pathology education. I am not a doctor, and I have not diagnosed or treated anyone, dead or alive, without the assistance of a licensed medical doctor. This show, my website, and social media accounts are designed to educate and inform people based on my experience working in pathology, so they can make healthier decisions regarding their life and well-being. Always remember that science is changing every day, and the opinions expressed in this episode are based on my knowledge of those subjects at the time of publication. If you are having a medical problem, have a medical question, or are having a medical emergency, please contact your physician or visit an urgent care center, emergency room, or hospital. Please rate, review, and subscribe to Mother Knows Death on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, or anywhere you get podcasts. Thanks.